Sorry guys, hit the wrong button whenever my screen flashed out, so this post lecture is now going to be in 2 parts. Sorry. I'll link them right next to each other. Anyway, so he puts his money, Tookie puts his money in the mouth as they go to kind of save the day, and that's whenever they get there, they're focusing on the car. They're not there whenever, that slow motion moment I mentioned earlier, Booth says, Tookie kind of comes out in his long overcoat, kind of flares out in the wind, and he's there, he's determined, and you can just kind of see it in your mind, this guy with this big overcoat, in sections just kind of breathes out against the wind, that heroic pose of, walking against the wind like Shaft or something. Yeah, it's really kind of, it was hysterical the first time I read it. To me anyway, even though it was supposed to be very serious, but it's a good moment. You don't really often see a whole lot of moments described that way, to where you can see it almost happening in slow motion in your head. So that was just great writing, in my opinion. So anyway, they are there, and that's where things start getting creepy. Lumley's not listening to him to their warning. And to be honest with you, it's completely understandable. If I was looking for my wife and my sons, Grayson and Riker, in the middle of a snowstorm, and the car was empty, I'd be looking anyway. I wouldn't leave there without them. I would be looking for them as well, especially not knowing or believing, for that matter, about vampires in the graveyard. I most certainly would not stop looking, and neither did Lumley, even though these 2 guys were trying to physically stop him and bring him back in there. Tookie even tries to appeal to reason, which no one will listen to anyway, like, hey, if they're out here, they've been frozen already or worse, so we need to go. The guy, and when they said, all right, this is going to make sense, but they're vampires here, we need to get out. And the guy's like, you're loonies. And then that's where things get really weird. He runs off, and then they hear that voice. Now, we never get a real description of where that voice comes from, but it's ominous and it's dark. And it says, Booth says like it was like silver bells and everything stops, and his blood ran cold, and they're listening, and it's really kind of frightening. Because up to this point, we've gotten a lot of story and a lot of talk, but now things are happening, and now things are getting dark, and now things are getting to the point where they've got to go. And then he sees his wife. Lumley sees his wife, and there's something different about her. Booth says, he's kind of repelled and appealed by her, and essentially, he's kind of drawn to her. And that's one thing that a lot of the classical traits of vampires really go, is how alluring they are and how people are kind of drawn to them. They've got that otherworldly, kind of thing going on. And we see that a couple times in this story as well. But Tookie and Booth do what they can for the guy. They really, really can, until it is too late. In that case, they're taking care of each other. Tookie's kind of pulling Booth, like, we got to go. It's too late for him. They hear his scream. His wife obviously been turned into a vampire, and this otherworldly creature that's no longer really herself, but more like this ethereal blood fiend demon. That is going to take him with them. And so right there, we're aware of 2 vampires. Whoever it was that turned the wife. The wife now turning, essentially we can assume he turns anyway. He's dead at the very least. Lumley is gone, and now it's basically Tookie and Booth trying to get away. Tookie then has like this heart attack, which another point goes to Tookie with having a bad heart, knowing the stress that it's going to cause of looking for these people, especially with vampires and deadly stuff and otherworldly stuff. He still goes to help them, to save the day, essentially, to rescue this woman and child. And has a heart attack trying to escape them almost. We don't know if it's a heart attack, but the way it's described is eventually he's like, oh, my ticker, been bad for years. And so Booth then has to step up. He says he hoists him up into the thing, he runs around, and then he just runs into a kid. And this is where things really kind of get heartbreaking, and where things get really kind of creepy at the same time. Because once again, the vampires have that kind of appeal. And, the little girl's like, I need my mommy, I miss my mommy, I can't find my mommy. And you really kind of feel for her, but she's a vampire. You do. And so, she's like, she's like, pick me up so, I can give you a kiss and then you can find my mommy. Obviously, the idea of, picking up a little child to comfort them, and help them find. And then all of a sudden, but we know, he says her mouth starts opening. You see the fangs, but he's really kind of there. But before that, he knows how it's middle of winter. There's all kinds of snow, but she's standing on top of the snow. There's no tracks there. Another otherworldly aspect to it. And what we've got here is this really kind of defining moment, because Booth is done for. He's there. He's like, maybe it won't be so bad. Maybe it won't be so bad, because he's drawn in by this. He's drawn in by the allure of the vampire, of this little child who we feel very, very bad for. And then all of a sudden there's this big puff of smoke and stuff like that, and the child's screaming because Tookie had thrown his mother's Bible at her. And obviously holy things, the vampires can't stand, which is another old superstition and plot work of almost all vampire tales, essentially. And they get away. And then Booth tells us, how that night haunts him and that kind of stuff, and how Tookie died, an old man in his sleep peacefully, that kind of stuff, and how he's an old man now, and how people still go missing around the lot on occasion. And he talks about how it wasn't the voice that we never saw. It wasn't really the woman vampire, or even the murder of Lumley in front of him, but that poor girl that haunts him, still looking for a kiss, still looking for her mommy, doomed forever now to be a 7-year-old child forever. And it's really very kind of sad. And he leaves us on this ominous note about, how, people still go missing, and how there's this little girl, they're still looking for that, yada, yada, yada. And so it's really, really messes with you. And we have this really kind of interesting and unique character of Tookie, who appears to be one way, but is really radically not the other. Like he's rough, he's tough, he's kind of mean, but then he's so kind-hearted to Lumley and his family that he literally puts himself, bad heart and all, at risk, and the risk of his friends as well, to go and save them, knowing what they know. And so we get this bit of characterization, which is really great to read, and at no point does it ever say, but what you really know is that he was a good guy. No. Stephen King reveals that to us through actions. What I mean by it's one of those ideas that, actions speak louder than words. It's the same thing with writing. As a writer, don't tell me how the character changes. Don't tell me who the character really is. Show me. Write it down. Show it in such a way that it is evident through an examination of their reactions, their actions and reactions of the plot and of the movement and the events. And that's how you show your character. That's how you address who those characters are. Because some of the most lazy writing in the world starts out with, he was lazy, he was an action star, he was really good at this, he was really brave. Like, don't tell me the attributes, the characteristics of your character. Show them through the events. Show them through the characterization. For instance, Katniss Everdeen, I've not read them, but people that have said, one of the things is, you don't really start out with, Katniss was a brave woman. No, you show how brave she is through the things that she does. Those sorts of things. And so, keep that in mind as we continue to strive towards our own short story. So that is our first unit as far as the 2 stories that we're doing, The Good Country People and One for the Road. Ideally by now you've done your quiz and blog for Good Country People, and what you need to do now is obviously your blog for One for the Road, the quiz, which is 5 questions for One for the Road, and then there is a music discussion that I want you to address. The song, and there'll be information on it as well. I want you to read the information I put on there about it first, click on the link, watch it, listen to it on YouTube, and then go to the discussion. But actually take time, listen to it once or twice, okay? Because it's the one that we have here is Black River Killer by Blitzen Trapper, and I'm sure some of you guys have heard of it. It's a band that's obviously getting a lot more well known than it was a few years ago. But it's really kind of, the song itself is really kind of related to, or you could consider the lyrical cousin of Johnny Cash's Folsom Prison Blues. yeah, it's a little more, I say graphic. It's not really graphic. It's longer, so there's just more to it. But it's the same kind of concept of, this criminal, that kind of stuff. But anyway, listen to it, add to the discussion, and then we have our unit discussion, okay, which would be below that. Complete that, and once you have that, that's our first unit done. That's our first week done. And, take your quizzes, do your 2 blogs, do your 2 discussions, and that's our first week, guys. We are good to go as far as that goes. I hope that it's been a first good week. I hope it wasn't, too stressful for you. I hope that you've gotten some really good opinions based on it, and hopefully exposed to a couple things like, music or, and stories you might not have been aware of, and hopefully kind of lights a fire within you about what's coming next with our next 2 units, which would be next up would be original narration, and then our second one, which would be memorable endings, and then our final one, which is our writing stuff, okay, which last week will be dedicated to writing, and we'll get more specific there. So thanks for stopping by, guys. Make sure you do your stuff. Look forward to you. If you have any questions, email me. You can do it through Gaggle, I guess, if you want to, but also, just so you know, and I'll put this somewhere on the page, my regular school email is nharmon@wolves.k12.mo.us. And so, send me an email if you have questions on either one. And I'll talk to you later, guys. Enjoy.